La loi de Justin Trudeau de C-75 qui permet la libération facile pour des criminels récidivistes qui sont arrêtés pour la violence a causé une vague de criminalité sans précédent à travers le pays. Une augmentation dans la criminalité de 32 depuis l'arrivée en pouvoir de Justin Trudeau. Le Bloc wokiste supporte l'agenda de libération et de peine de Netflix de Justin Trudeau. L'approche des libéraux et le Bloc wokiste a causé cette vague de criminalité à travers le pays. Mais à cause du meurtre du constable Perchella par Randall Mackenzie, qui était libéré sous caution, il y a eu une pression pour renverser les politiques de Justin Trudeau de libération facile et de peine de Netflix. Aujourd'hui, les libéraux ont annoncé des changements qui n'auraient pas protégé le constable Perchella et qui auraient permis l'accusé d'être libéré sous caution pour faire le même crime qu'il a fait. Donc, l'annonce aujourd'hui des libéraux ne fait pas une réparation des politiques pro-criminalité qu'a mis en place Justin Trudeau avec la loi C-75. Le Parti conservateur, par contre, a un plan de gros bon sens, contrairement au Bloc wokiste et à Justin Trudeau. Notre plan, c'est que les criminels violents et récidivistes qui sont arrêtés de nouveau soient en prison jusqu'au moment que leur peine est complétée. Ça, c'est le gros bon sens. Et ça a fonctionné pour réduire la criminalité quand le gouvernement conservateur était en place. Et c'est ce que mon gouvernement va faire pour ramener la sécurité dans nos rues et pour ramener le gros bon sens chez nous. Justin Trudeau's catch and release bail system that he passed in Bill C-75 with the help of the NDP has unleashed a wave of violent crime across the country. Canadians rallied to reverse Trudeau's catch and release bail policy after the tragic murder of Constable Perchella by a violent repeat offender who was out on bail. Today, Liberals announced measures on bail that would have continued to release the same killer who killed Constable Perchella. In other words, they have not reversed catch and release. They want to continue with the same Trudeaupian policies supported by the NDP that have done catch and release and caused a massive crime wave across this country. A common-sense Conservative government will reverse Trudeau's catch and release. We will bring in laws that require repeat violent offenders who are newly arrested for violence to stay behind bars with jail, not bail, until their trial is done and their sentence is complete. We'll also get rid of Trudeau's catch and release parole policy and get rid of house arrest for repeat violent offenders. These are common sense answers that will bring home safety to our streets. That is our goal. Let's bring it home.
Can you explain why it doesn't end catch and release, in your view?
So, first of all, the Randall Mackenzie, who is the accused killer of Constable Perchella, already had to overcome the policy of, already had to follow through and prove the onus on him to be released. And he achieved that. So he was released, even though there was an onus on him to prove that he should be. This bill does not raise the bar. It simply puts in a bunch of lower bars underneath the bar that is already there. In other words, he would have been released by this regime, the catch and release regime the Liberals are reinforcing today, and it does not guarantee that a repeat violent offender who is newly charged with a violent crime would stay in jail until the sentence is complete. And that's how it fails to end catch and release. And I invite either of my shadow ministers to add anything to that.
I did want to mention that certainly I think the public is very concerned about repeat violent offenders. It's been top of mind, certainly from our constituents across the country. Moms and dads want to be rest assured that their kids walking down every major street, Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, Winnipeg, that they will be safe and not victim of violence and stabbings from repeat violent offenders. I think women want to be safe riding public transit. Today's announcement will not address the repeat violent offenders that have increased crime by 32% since Trudeau first came to office. It will also not bring justice to Greg Priscilla, as the leader mentioned, as Pierre Poilievre mentioned today. That individual, that accused murderer, would have got out on bail anyway. As he mentioned, to stop that man from getting out on bail, the bar is here. Liberals today just added extra little bars down here. So it would not have made a difference. That man still would have been out, and Greg Priscilla would have still been murdered. And again, it's accused, it's before trial, but it's very important to recognize that the murder of Greg Priscilla sparked this entire conversation across the country. Every single premier in the country, including the territory, signed on to a letter demanding bail reform. Major overhaul is needed in the catch and release policies that Trudeau and Minister Lametti brought forward in the last number of years. This will not fix that problem. Only a Conservative government led by Pierre Poilievre, Prime Minister, will ensure that the catch and release policies are eliminated for violent repeat offenders and ensure that our streets are safe for the moms and dads and their kids, for women riding public transit. Today will not change the status quo and the 32% increase of violent crime that we've seen as a result of Justin Trudeau's policies.
A big reason that the suspect in that case was released is because the judge took into account his Indigenous status. And that's something the Supreme Court has ordered judges to do. So I'm wondering, is that something that you would get rid of if you form government? Would you tell judges, no, you don't have to look after or consider someone's Indigenous status, and would that be constitutional?
I think notably in that case, the reverse onus, as Pierre Poilievre mentioned today, he did meet the onus. He proved it to that judge. And so this is just adding additional reverse onuses against the bar needed to be here to stop him from getting released. It's just adding extra bars here. I think what police across the country, the OPP, and people who care about the safety of our officers and individuals walking down the street want to know is today's announcement going to keep them safer? And the answer is no. This does not reverse the reckless catch and release policies that Justin Trudeau brought in 2019 and all the other soft on crime measures that he's brought in that have resulted in a 32% increase of violent crime, which, by the way, accounts to 124,000 more violent crime incidents. And the last thing I'll say about police as well, because this is important, police have been exhausted as a result of all of these soft on crime policies. If you look at Vancouver, 40 individuals were responsible for 6,000 interactions with police last year. How much more good could police be doing if there was real action taken today? But it's not going to happen because Justin Trudeau has showed what he wants to do, and that is a soft on crime, reckless catch and release bail policies that were not changed by today. I know my colleague Rob Moore would like to add to that.
Well, thank you. You know, today there was an opportunity to right the wrong that was Bill C-75. Bill C-75 baked in the concept of criminals being released when they absolutely should, for the protection of Canadians, for the protection of police, be behind bars. This was an opportunity to listen to those that appeared at our Justice Committee when we studied bail, police officers who came, and police chiefs with an impassioned plea to protect officers and to ensure that repeat violent offenders are held behind bars while they're waiting for their trial. This bill does not do that. It's a missed opportunity. We know under the Liberal government, under Justin Trudeau, violent crime is up 32%. We know that gang crime has doubled under Justin Trudeau, and we know that's a result of the catch and release policies of his government. So he had an opportunity to fix that, and this fell woefully inadequate today.
Monsieur Poilievre, pouvez-vous nous expliquer, vous, votre proposition, comment elle se détaillerait? Est-ce que vous verriez des exceptions possibles? Mon collègue a soulevé la question autochtone, notamment. Comment ça fonctionnerait, ce que vous voulez proposer?
Mais j'ai un plan de gros bon sens. C'est de mettre en place une garantie qu'un criminel violent et récidiviste qui est accusé de nouveau de violence reste en prison jusqu'à ce que le procès est complet et s'il est trouvé coupable jusqu'à ce qu'on fait toute la sentence, toute la peine en prison. sur
Même
le
un
plan.
suspect autochtone?
Ça, c'est évidemment, nous sommes le seul parti de gros bon sens qui va protéger les victimes autochtones. Des victimes autochtones. Pourquoi est-ce que Justin Trudeau ne s'intéresse jamais aux victimes autochtones? Comme les victimes en Saskatchewan, tuées par un criminel qui avait déjà été trouvé coupable à 60 reprises des crimes violents. Est-ce que c'est parce que les victimes étaient autochtones qu'ils ne s'y intéressent pas? Is it because, I'm going to say this in English, I don't know why Justin Trudeau is not interested in Indigenous victims of crime. In Saskatchewan, the killer, the Sanderson, he had 60 prior violent convictions, and Trudeau's catch and release system let him out to massacre an entire community. Is it because they're First Nations that he's not interested in taking action? What has he done since that happened? It's disgusting the way he treats First Nations and Indigenous victims of crime. And Pierre Poilievre-led government will have a common sense plan to keep First Nations and all Canadians safe against repeat violent offenders. And one other thing. The other day, Justin Trudeau put on one of his big high school drama performances about how much he cares for police. Well, today he proved that was another fake. Because if he cared for police, he'd listen to what they're saying. They're telling him to end the catch and release criminal justice system that is putting their lives at risk. Police officers have lost their lives because Justin Trudeau has turned loose repeat violent criminals who've killed them. There are little kids whose moms and dads don't come home because of Trudeau's catch and release policies. He should be ashamed of himself. It's time for some common sense to keep our people safe.
Oui, je sais qu'il y a quand même un problème de surreprésentation de certaines communautés dans les prisons canadiennes. Est-ce que ça risque pas d'empirer ce problème-là, non?
Mais j'ai déjà dit qu'on va protéger les victimes autochtones et des autres victimes. Peu importe leurs origines, tout le monde devrait être protégé. Oui,
I just wanted to confirm, firstly, because you said the first part of that answer in French, confirm in English that conservatives, ideally, there would be no discretion afforded to the justices of the peace to make any decision about whether to release someone who's been charged with a violent repeated offender.
A repeat violent offender, newly arrested for another serious violent offense, will have to serve their entire period in jail, not bail, and not early parole. That's common sense. Let's bring home safety.
The Supreme Court would approve that?
We should point out that the Supreme Court never disagreed with any of the policies of the previous Harper government that tightened up bail conditions. So none of the catch and release system was not brought in by the Supreme Court. It was brought in by Justin Trudeau.
When you talk about bail, the crime has already happened, or the alleged crime has already happened. So how can you attribute bail to this increase in crime and not, should there not be more supportive measures to prevent the crime in the first place?
Well,
You're talking about someone being on bail. They've already allegedly committed the crime. So where,
they're committing crimes on bail. That's the problem. The problem is, I'll give you an example. In Vancouver, the same 40 offenders were arrested 6,000 times in a year. That's 150 arrests per offender per year. Why? Because they're arrested in the morning, then they're released on bail by noon, they reoffend, they're back in jail by 2 in the afternoon, and then they're released by the evening so that they can commit their final crime before they go to bed.
the failure of the system to not support people who have committed crimes, gone to jail, served their sentence, and then they're committing another crime. So is this not a failure of things like social services and support for people who have committed crimes?
Are you serious?
I'm asking you a
No,
question.
I mean, are you serious? Come on. You're telling me, no, excuse me, let me answer your question. Are you honestly saying that it's society's fault if a repeat violent offender commits 60 or 70 offenses? I think that criminal is to blame for his own actions. He is personally responsible. We're not talking about some kid who made one mistake when he was 19. We're talking about people who do 60, 70 violent offenses.
Why do those people
And then
commit
they're,
those offenses?
because they're criminals.
But why are they criminals?
Because they do crime.
And why do they do crime?
Because we let them out early on bail.
So because they
I think
got
we've
let
solved
out,
the riddle here.
because they got let out early on bail.
That's right.
They then commit the crime.
That's right.
So
That's what all the experts agree is the cause of the crime.
So had they stayed in jail the whole time, on bail, in jail, not on bail, as you say, they would then not commit crimes?
Because they'd be in jail, so they couldn't commit
And
crimes.
when they get out at the end of their sentence, they're crime-free?
Well, we can't guarantee that, but what we can guarantee is the period when they're behind bars, they will not be able to do crime.
But you seriously don't think that there's got to be some, help with homelessness, mental health,
Look.
things like that? There's got to be some other thing than just locking people up.
First of all, what I'm proposing would ultimately lead to less people being locked up. During the previous Conservative government, the incarceration levels went down because we targeted the repeat violent offenders with stiffer jail penalties. Now, and we gave rehabilitation to a young person who made a mistake to get them fixed up and back out into a good life. That makes sense. But we're talking here. Do you know, here's the good news. We have very few criminals in Canada. It's a tiny minority. Like I said, in Vancouver, if you took those 40 offenders off the street, you'd have 6,000 fewer people hit over the head with a baseball bat or stabbed at a transit station. It's just 40 people. So take the worst, most chronic reoffenders, put them behind bars. Is there homelessness? Yes. Trudeau has caused housing costs to double. Naturally, because of the misery that his woke economic policies have caused people, particularly the poorest people, there's more homelessness, there's more mental health breakdown, there's more misery than ever before. People are asking for help with medical assistance and dying because they can't afford the cost of food. That is what you're going to get when you increase the cost of government and you drive up inflation, taxes, and interest rates. It's also what you're going to get when you legalize crack, heroin, and cocaine, as Trudeau and the NDP have done in BC, and it's exactly what you're going to get when you use tax dollars to give out free, hard drugs to addicts. All of this has caused the phenomenon of everything being broken after 8 years of Justin Trudeau. My common sense plan will bring down inflation and housing prices by capping the cost of government, removing the gatekeepers to build homes people can afford, and by putting the most serious violent offenders in jail. And we're going to ban hard drugs and stop giving out tax-free narcotics, instead give people treatment.
Okay, last question.
Yeah.
One of the issues with the justice system currently is that people are waiting too long for trial.
Yeah.
And we're seeing trials cut out. If you think about sort of your measure to keep people in jail awaiting trial, it seems that that's opening a door for more pressure on the justice system because the principles will come into effect that they've been in jail too long. So I wonder if you could talk about the justice side equation of that,
Yes.
and how you think that needs fixing as a result.
So this is a good question because it is not fair to the accused or the victim to have a trial delayed too long. So what's the solution? Why is our system so gummed up? It's because the same tiny minority of repeat offenders keep getting charged again and again and again and again and again with more and more crime. Why? Because we're releasing them within hours of their arrest so they can go and reoffend. So if you bring in jail and not bail for repeat violent offenders, then they would not have the chance to go and reoffend and commit that other dozen crimes, and you'd have a dozen fewer trials you'd have to run them through. Less crime, a more efficient justice system. It's common sense. Let's bring it home.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.